Hello there and welcome to the first episode of a brand new series here on Pleasure Beach Experience YouTube. Trip planning is one of my favourite things to do, whether it be for personal trips to theme parks or planning coaster club events. It's something I really can't get enough of. Throughout each theme park season, the thing we are messaged about the most is travelling tips for theme parks we have covered in previous vlogs. So with that in mind and my admiration for trip planning, it's time to introduce our new trip planning series. I wasn't sure if this was the right time to introduce this series to the channel with more lockdown restrictions in place, but this may well be the best time to sit out and plan some future trips. Today's episode is going to cover how I plan my park trips from the beginning through to the trip taking place. So without any further delay, let's get into it. Firstly, it's best to know what you want out of the trip, as in, what type of park are you looking to visit? Are you an amusement park fan or are you a theme park fan? This is an important factor because there's no point booking a trip to Disney or Efteling if you're more interested in thrills and not so much theme. The next two things go hand in hand. When can you visit and what's your budget? They go hand in hand because if you can only make the trip in August, you're going to need a bigger budget than you'd need in mid-May or mid-September, let's say. These may seem like really obvious things to do, but it's really important to know what you want out of a trip, what you can afford, when you can go, and so on. Now that the basics are in place and you have an idea of what you're looking to do, how much you realistically want to spend, when you can go, it's time to do some research. Firstly, use sites like Skyscanner to look for some excellent flight deals into Europe. Sometimes you can really find flights at £20 return to somewhere like Cologne or Barcelona. It may seem a little daft looking for flight destinations before choosing which parks you want to go, but it would be disappointing to set your heart on visiting somewhere and then see that flight costs are going to put a strain on your budget. Something to consider when looking for flights: your local airport may not be the cheapest airport to fly from. In the past, I've flown to places from London or Edinburgh, even though there's at least 5 airports closer to home. That was because flying from those places was much cheaper, even after factoring in travel to those airports and leaving my car parked at that airport for a few days. Sometimes there's decent train line deals to airports too, if you book well in advance. It's always a good idea to factor in all costs though, because whilst it may be £60 cheaper to fly from London than somewhere up north, the cost of getting to London may bump up the price too much that it's worth taking the slightly higher price hit at your local airport. Once you've found your potential flight destinations, head onto a website called Coast to Coaster, linked in the description, to see which parks are nearby to the flight destinations that you've seen with reasonable prices. You may find that the park or parks in that area aren't really what you're looking for, or you might just find a perfect place. Sometimes you may also see that the park you really fancy visiting is close by to 2 or 3 other parks which you can fit into your trip timescale and your budget. If you're looking to tick boxes on your coaster count, it's always worth looking for a +1 or a +2 around the area you're going to be in. A combination of browsing on Skyscanner and Coast to Coaster has been a real help to me in the past when it comes to weighing up the best options for my next theme park adventure. Coast to Coaster is excellent for finding parks all over the world. It links to rcdb.com, which gives a more in-depth look at the coasters at each park. RCDB will also help show you which parks are nearby to the park that you've been looking at. However, I would always recommend using Google Maps to get a clear idea of travel times between the local airport, the parks you're looking at, and hotels nearby. Also, please remember to always check the theme park's operating schedule before committing to dates on your trip. You don't want to be booking a midweek break to Madrid to find both theme parks are closed. Not that I've done that or anything. Top tip: write everything down. Flight times, travel times to each park, the parks you want to visit, the town, city names where the parks are located, and then you can move on to the next step. Now it's time to see if your budget covers the cost of the hotels by the parks, covers your transport costs, whether it be taxis, buses, trains, car hire, or anything else, and after that, does your budget cover the cost of theme park tickets? This might sound really boring, and it is, but it's vital to have a clear idea of the overall cost so that you know your budget can or can't cover it. There's also other factors to budget in, such as the cost of catering. I always try to find a hotel that includes breakfast. There's travel insurance and also the possibility of merchandise that you may want to buy when you're there. As you're costing it all out, overestimate how much each thing will cost so you've got a bit of a safety net. Admittedly, in the past I've been pulled in by cheap flights, booked them, and then found everything else on the trip is really not affordable. It's a very, very easy mistake to make. A top tip for when you're planning transport that includes hiring a car: always check the small print. The advertised price may look like €39 for 3 days of car hire, but that's usually the base price without things like collision damage waiver added, and then there's also the security deposit, which can be anywhere between €200 and €1,000 at the point of collecting the car, something that's rarely shown in an easy place to find on the website. I think and I hope I've covered all the basics here. If I do remember anything after upload, I'll be sure to add it into the comments section below, as well as mentioning it in the next travel guide video. If you have found this video to be useful and or enjoyable, please give it a like, and please share your feedback in the comments section below. Can we get 200 likes on this video? The next episode in our travel guide series will feature tips and tricks for individual parks in Europe, and that will be coming very soon on the channel. But for now, many thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Pleasure Beach Experience video.